You ever wonder what that device that you're watching this video on even functions? How that phone, tablet, laptop, or even the big box underneath your desk, how it even runs? Well, today I'm going to show you how to build the largest member of the computing family and the oldest one, the desktop computer. Now, there's going to be a handful of things that you need for this, but the process itself is relatively simple, and it's almost like building Legos. So, the first thing that you're going to need is a box to store everything in. Right here, I got a metal box, relatively simple. I took the side off of it. I probably threw it away because a lot of the stuff I have here is old. However, I still got the box, and I still have what is drilled inside of it. Now, for the sheer point of convenience and time, I've already put the motherboard into the computer as well as one of the side fans, and I believe it's even, nope, not quite yet. Now it's hooked up. So the side fan and the motherboard and all these cables right here are simply for USB ports and the power button on the front of the computer. Now, contrary to popular belief, the motherboard doesn't actually run the computer. It allows what runs the computer to talk to each other and essentially allows it all to stay connected. Now, when you fry your motherboard, essentially you may have fried other components of the computer, such as the CPU or GPU, and that's not allowing the computer to run. So, what else do you need? Well, you need to connect to this motherboard. The first thing you're going to need, essentially the heart of the computer, is your CPU. Computing, or I don't know exactly what it stands for at the moment, but it's essentially the heart of your computer. Now, this is actually an Intel Inspire CPU that I pulled out of a laptop a couple days ago, and it actually still has a lot of thermal paste on the back of it, not very cleaned up, and it has male connectors on it. That'll be important later on. The CPU essentially draws the outline for every program that is essentially processed on your computer. It's going to draw the outline for it. So the better your CPU is, typically the faster a program is going to load up. And higher-end CPUs typically can cost around $700. This one right here, it's pretty outdated. About $30. It's not going to cost you much. So building a PC can be really cheap if you're simply looking to have a PC. So the next thing you're going to need is something to fill in those outlines that the CPU draws, and that's when we get to the GPU. Now, most all computers already have Intel HD graphics GPU inside of them, unless of course you buy them say off Newegg and you buy a really nice one. It's probably not going to have an Intel HD graphics card in it, and many nicer PCs, or even ones that just require constant maintenance, maybe not constant maintenance, but are constantly being used, per se in schools or in offices, are going to have a significant upgrade to the simple GPU. So the CPU draws the outlines, the GPU fills in the outlines. This is what's going to allow a computer to turn from your simple Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office, just simple stuff, to a full-blown gaming computer that's capable of much, much more. Next, you will need RAM, random access memory, that's going to allow programs to store variables semi-temporary or temporarily. This is going to allow, per se, if I made a program that counts the number of clicks that you click in a minute, it's going to allow me to store those number of clicks on this rather than downloading it to your computer and then uninstalling it when you close the program. This is simply going to allow it to store it in here, and then when you close the program, delete it. Now, this is the primary reason that you don't want to turn off your computer using the power button, because it can leave the RAM full, and that's not good for your computer. So I got 2 sticks, DD4, 2-channel RAM, kind of the newest stuff from an off-brand market. Going to give us 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is more than enough for most common computers. Next, we need somewhere to store everything, including your operating system for, say, Windows or iOS if you're using an Apple. You're going to need the hard drive. Now, the hard drive stores everything on it. It's a pretty simple hard drive from Seagate, 100 gigabytes. Most hard drives you buy today are about a terabyte, which is only about 48 more gigabytes, and you can have a terabyte. So this is pretty much your terabyte hard drive. Shout out to Plevna Schools, about 11 miles out of Baker. They donated me all of this stuff. Not for the speech, just simply because they didn't want it anymore. So guess we got a bunch of computer stuff. Next, we're going to need a power supply. This is a simple link on or light on power supply that came with the computer that they donated. It's going to power everything from your motherboard to your hard drive. Power buttons, any disk. I actually have a disk drive installed in here, but I'm not going to put that up because it's an accessory. But it's going to power everything inside your computer. So to start out with, you would normally put in your CPU. However, because the connectors inside of this motherboard are male and the connectors on the CPU are male, they're not going to fit together, and essentially the CPU would be broken if I tried to jam it in there. Because male and male doesn't work, and female doesn't work when building computers. As part of the social construct, I'm not even going to touch that. As for the GPU, I already have one installed on this motherboard just for the sake of time. So next we're going to put in the RAM. The disk or the RAM should just fit right in like a Lego piece. This motherboard has 2 slots for RAM. Other motherboards may only have 1 slot, while others may consist of 8. It will always be a multiple of the last number, or a double the last number. So 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, etc. Now we got our RAM in there. I'm going to take our hard drive, and since the hard drive came with the computer case, just like everything else, it's going to slide right into the rack that's already been put in there. Next, we're going to put in our power supply, which is also part of this computer or came with the case. So, just like everything else, slides right on in there. Now, there's a handful of things you need to connect from this. Number 1, you're going to have to supply power to the hard drive. Number 2, you're going to have to supply power to the motherboard. And the simple connectors fit right in, just like Lego pieces. Just like so. One thing I did forget to mention is you will need a SATA cable that allows your motherboard to talk to your hard drive. So this is a simple SATA cable. All SATA cables are relatively the same and are going to run you about the same amount of money. And they're actually relatively cheap, and you can put multiple hard drives in your computer if you feel like it, if you feel like you don't have enough memory. And like that, the one thing I do not have on me right now, and I wasn't going to go spend $100 to go buy, is a CPU cooling system. Most CPU cooling systems on PCs are fan-based, like the fan that's already in here. However, it connects right on top of your CPU and connects with thermal paste, which is another thing I don't have on me right now, to allow your CPU to stay cool and not overheat when you're using your computer. And essentially, that, my friends, is how you build a computer. Thank you.